So what happened was this, like, right, there was this after the last video, one of the neighbors came up and started talking about the Avengers series of movies, which is an interesting coincidence because that's kind of a bit of stereotypical mainstream geek core. This body's never watched the Avengers series, but does know a little bit about it, of course, because in lots of journeys you meet lots of people. They're typically normal people, so they do things like watch television. Um, I watch television. They have negative, toxic attitudes. They're racist. They're sexist. They're homophobic. Fascistic, authoritarian, totalitarian body creams as a consequence of toxic negativity associated with being beaten down too much. Instead of building themselves up, they typically beat other people down to make themselves feel better. So as a consequence, they become vampires. And the ultimate vampire is the one that steals itself completely and then puts the vampiring shit on the survivor, and then they have to experience what that person was really like, which is a toxic mess. So that's associated with militarism and stuff like that. So military people are typically quite vampiric. Um, Anyone who's done military services often has often sees sex as rape, and rape is a means by which vampirism is possible. Um, Typically, what they try to do is offload the demons that were created by their war trauma onto peaceniks and hippies, so that they can be hippie bashed. Um, the purpose of that is to show that the fascist hierarchy of the military always reigns supreme, and any stupid bitches that try to be a peace activist or say protest against militarism and war must be some kind of criminal, and therefore because that man's a criminal, and he blames her through that action for that behaviour, then he's obviously not the criminal she is, because all a woman is a whole, and spirits are obviously interchangeable, aren't they? And they're just lotions. So, bodies being whole, it's a good experience. Whatever spirits the hierarchy says they should have, and basically, if they don't treat them as guides or husbands or something like that, then they must be some kind of backwoods Catholic who believes that 12-year-olds should be raped instead. So, on that subject, those kind of individuals would probably believe that the Avengers movie was referring to real events. They'd probably argue that Thor and Loki and associated Norse gods were real historical characters, and that some was a theatre, as it turns out. In a similar way that the New Age movement argues that the Jehovah and Anunnaki were real characters, okay, aliens from outer space that possessed god kings or something like that, and yeah, with some kind of extended edition type of alien powers that enables them to control the populace in a particularly bizarre fashion. And so, what actually happened was, though, is that is those type of beliefs created what's actually called an egregore. The egregore was called Yaldabaoth or Jehovah, and subsequently destroyed by Project Echelon. So the problem with those militaristic people is they connected up to the Cybernex network, which people usually call Project Echelon. It's not what it is. It's more like Project Scorpio, and and so like you talk about the stories that they tell. So just argument's sake, it's Project Scorpio, and so you've got all these demonic entities that come from 1/12 of the population, who are men, who believe in fascism. So they might believe, for example, that a 15-year-old deserves to be hit by a car, or deserve to die because a truck was parked improperly, because niggers don't have rights, including part niggers. They might also believe that Jews are vermin because Hitler said so, ignoring the fact that Hitler was a meth head, and meth heads' opinions don't count for fucking shit because they're typically in a state of drug-induced psychosis. So, sort of drug-induced psychosis associated with Europe is a replica of how, in truth, how religions got invented in the first place. Obviously, Abraham, when he was sitting there in the desert, had eaten some weird berries or something like that, and was a bit off his face, and thought God told him to attempt to murder his own son or have a choice of mutilating his private parts. And so this it's old adage of God is an excuse that drug-addled men come up with, or the devil is an excuse that drug-addled men come up with for their bad behaviour, is a truism. It's been true since the time of Abraham. It was true with the Sumerian gods and the stories that they told about that. It's been true of the ancient Greeks. It was true of the Norse gods. It was true of the ancient Egyptian ones. In each and every case, what you had is some narcissistic man who had a militaristic, fascistic attitude, who was controlling a platoon to beat the snot out of other people, just so he could get more stinky berries to make him higher, so that he could use imaginary characters as excuses for said bad behaviour. And so here we are today. The Avengers series. The Avengers series is a means by which testosterone-fueled men who can pretend that they have more powers than they have, instead of being skinny little fucking geeks or fat geeks who are overage and can't get girlfriends, and they sit there and pretend they're superheroes because that makes them think that they're special. And so men pretending that they're superheroes to feel special is what Christian cultural conditioning is for, just the same as militarism. Its job is to make blokes feel like they're more important than they really are. In truth, whether they are a billionaire or a poor man, they are a flabby slob that no one likes because they have a negative, toxic attitude and see women as property, and also men as competition. And as a consequence of that, they can't get girlfriends. They can't get boyfriends. Okay, they're sitting there thinking that they're missing out, when actually the world isn't missing out if they're all on their fucking lonesome and no one has anything to do with them.